And we're back on some of the greatest twisty roads in Westchester County. So a little bit about the BMW M3. When I was a kid, about 10 years old, the first M3 hit the market. It was a unique situation, and it kicked off a craze. The racing series required X number of production cars to be built in order for the car to qualify for the race. So they built some 1,500, I believe, M3s. They sold like hotcakes. Kicked off a revolution in the way that people were able to enjoy cars. And like I said, a movement was born. The next generation, called the E46, the first generation was the E30. Of course, they go for crazy money now, even though it's a basic 4-cylinder with 190 horsepower, 197 horsepower to be exact, out of a little 2-liter engine. Very powerful 2-liter engine, especially for the time. The E36 came out, and it was a much more watered-down version of what people had come to expect from the M series. So it was a bit of a disappointment, but still, it was by far the best compact sports car at the time, because again, there was virtually no competition. Mercedes occasionally would try to compete. Audi wasn't a major player yet, and the Japanese hadn't hit their stride yet. They were more focused on luxury, although there was the Acura NSX, which was in itself revolutionary for its time. So the E36, with 240 horsepower out of basically a slightly bored out version of the standard E36 straight 6, is known mostly for its handling, because it certainly doesn't have the power. Listen to that engine. And even with this older SMG, it shifts incredibly quickly. So I'll never forget this as long as I'm alive. It was October of 1999. I get my monthly edition of Automobile magazine, and on the cover of it was the brand new 3rd generation E46 M3, which is this car. And I swore to myself at that moment that one day I would have it. It took me 12 years, but I have it, and I'm here to tell you, it was worth the fuss. Power went from 240 horsepower on the E36 to 333 on the E46. It's a huge jump in power. Not only that, but the build of it was so much better. The technology behind it was so much better. It had all sorts of innovations in it. Double Vanos was the key technology that enabled it to produce the incredible amount of power that it does. It's such a small engine. It's just a 3.2 liter straight 6. And then the next generation M3 that came out, the 4th generation E92, is also an amazing car. I've actually driven it at the BMW Performance Driving School. We did time trials in it. It has a 414 horsepower V8. But I suppose all BMW files will tell you that a proper BMW is a straight 6. So there's a little bit lost there. But it sounded amazing, and if I recall correctly, the V8 somehow managed to weigh less than the straight 6 that it replaced. So it was a wonderful car. but it never had the same appeal to me that this one did. This has a timeless design. The sound that the engine makes is intoxicating and addicting, and even at idle, it sounds fantastic. The next generation, the 5th generation, has just now hit the market, and the M3 Coupe is now dead. It has now been rebranded the M4. As I mentioned before, my brother is one of the lucky few who now has one. Now, for a purist, it's not as appealing. Whoa, big bump. Because it has a turbocharger. Naturally aspirated motors are easier to control, they're easier to read. Not so with a turbo. But you have so much more low-end grunt on a turbocharger, so there's certainly advantages. But I had bad experiences as a kid. My dad had one of those 740 Volvo turbo wagons, which was one of the first fast station wagons, probably the first fast station wagon. By the time he sold the car with 100 and some odd thousand miles on it, the car barely moved. The turbo, all the pressure that it put on the engine, had destroyed it. And I'm one of those people that I want to keep something for a long time and take care of it, so that doesn't make sense to me. I understand that the technology has gotten better, but it doesn't appeal to me the way that this car does.